Hello, artist, and I'm so happy to see you and talk to you and teach you something about art today. We're going to be doing a project that is involving lots of the elements of art that we've learned about, including line, shape, color, and we are going to be using some materials that we probably wouldn't normally use in the art room. They could be from your kitchen. I'm going to be listing some of the things you'll need in just a minute, but our process today is called monoprinting, and mono means one and print means to make a copy of, so you can only make one copy of this type of print. So we are going to be using some markers, so I don't have an alternative at this moment for you other than to use markers for this. So if you don't have markers, you probably want to try one of my other videos, but you're going to need markers, a spray bottle, or a cup of water and a Q-tip. You're going to need some paper and probably some paper towels to put under it because you're going to be getting your paper wet with the water bottle or with your Q-tip. So this is something that you could use for Mother's Day if you would like, or you could just create a beautiful picture that is a monoprint, which is a type of printmaking process. Process means how do you make the art. So we're going to get started. Okay, so we have got to get our materials together first before we get started. So I said that you would need some aluminum foil. You need to have it a little bit bigger than your paper. I'm using this size paper, which could be actually a piece folded in half to make a card. I'm going to use this size, and it needs to be a little bit bigger than your paper. You also could use a Ziploc baggie, and you could use a gallon size or whatever size you have. This is a sandwich size. It would work fine also, because you could do an image on this paper and not have a lot of empty space anyway. So you are also going to need markers. I have a variety of markers. Many of them I've had to get from my children because many of my markers are drying up. So that happens to them if you don't put the cap on very tightly. So I'm going to make sure that my aluminum foil is bigger than my paper, or if I was using the Ziploc baggie, I would decide where do I want my image to go on this paper. So whatever I do, I could do inside here and it would fit on the paper. So for this printmaking process, we use water-based markers. These are just the regular Crayola water-based markers. You cannot use permanent markers for this because they don't work. So I thought I would review a little bit with you for the colors of the rainbow, but I do not have a red marker, so that makes it kind of difficult. This is the closest red that I have. Red, orange, yellow. I do not have a green that, oh, here's green, blue, and purple. And hopefully these all work. So you can do any kind of design you'd like that would transfer onto the paper nicely. Here is one that I tried that was not a successful attempt. It was a white crayon that I drew on the paper with, and then I tried to print make on top of that. The white crayon should resist any color, but this did not turn out the way I had intended. So the white is not showing up at all. When this is dry, however, I could take my my failed attempt at printmaking and add things to it in crayon and marker, but I have to wait for the paper to dry because it will rip otherwise. But here is my second attempt. I wrote on the paper first with a crayon, before I got started, I wrote Happy Mother's Day. If you want this to be a card, then you could do, or whatever you want to do on it is fine. You could draw a picture on this first and then have the printmaking to be your colorful background. Okay. So I drew on it, and then I took my aluminum foil and I started to color with my markers. Whatever colors you want, in whatever pattern you want. It could be, I did stripes on this one. You could do a rainbow curved line. You could do zigzags. You could do whatever kinds of lines or shapes that you would like to use and create blocks of color on this aluminum foil. Now what's going to happen is some areas the aluminum foil is going to resist. That means it's going to not want the marker to stick, and that's okay because it doesn't have to be completely filled in. This is going to be pretty sketchy, spotty, fuzzy, whatever you want to call it. It's not going to be perfectly solid. These prints are not real clear, is what I'm trying to say. They are pretty fuzzy. So that's okay. It gives it kind of a watercolory effect, a softness about it. I tried to blend those two colors together right there, and we'll see how that looks on the paper, because a lot of this is trial and error, and it's okay to experiment with art. Ms. Yazell experiments with new ways to try things all the time so that I can teach you guys new ways to make art. And then you pick your favorite, and then you probably will stick with that. And I'm always trying, like I said, new things, new ways to make art to help you guys be more creative. So I'm not being real exact, and it's okay if I go outside the line there because that's not even going to be on the paper. You just have to be careful because when your paper is wet and you have markers, it is going to get all over you if you're not careful. And I try not to get it all over me, but that doesn't mean I'm not messy sometimes. I do sometimes get it on me. That blue is not working well, so I'm just going to skip blue. And that purple's not working well. Let's see. This pinkish purple might work. Nope. Didn't work either. Okay. Keep moving. Use whatever colors you have that work. My rainbow didn't work out. That's okay. I'm going to go with it. Sometimes you have to. Okay. Then you're going to get a piece of paper. And I'm going to move my foil out of the way. Some paper towels, because I'm going to get my paper wet. So the wet paper is what pulls the ink off of the aluminum foil. So you have to have some wetness to your paper. I was using a spray bottle, but if you don't have one, you could also wet your paper all over. It might take you a little bit to get the whole paper wet, get it so that it soaks through. But I'm going to use my spray bottle. The bottles are kind of fickle sometimes. And if it doesn't look like it's wet everywhere, I'm just going to spread the water around. And okay, we don't want it too wet. I'm actually going to flip it over. Get some of the puddles. We don't want puddling. And I'm going to take and bring my aluminum foil back into view. Take my wet paper, whichever side you think looks the wettest. This one's pretty soaked. Go lay it down very carefully on top of my marker. I'm just going to pat it. We don't want to rub it. It's going to smear. And I don't know how that would look. It may look really cool. Who knows? But I really think I just want to pick up what color's there. And it's not going to be perfect, and it's not going to be a solid print. It's going to have some holes in the coloring. So when you think you've got everything transferred, and you can pick up your paper, and there's your print. And it looks really cool. I think that would be a very nice background. You could use this as a background and cut out shapes and like a heart or a flower or some leaves. This would look really cool as a fall project, but it's not fall, it's summer. So maybe some flowers for Mother's Day, like I showed you last week. This would be a cool background for those paper flowers. Then you would have to let this dry before you could write on it and use it for a card. The other way that I was going to show you would be using the plastic Ziploc bagging. And basically you are going to color on, you can't see that because I'm going to put the paper underneath of it so you can see what's going on. That marker, not so good. So to make a flower, I start with ovals. And if you want them more pointy, you could go back and put points on them. That's fine. I just start with an oval because it's a simple shape that can, and I start making an oval, fill in the middle. Make an oval, fill in the middle. Make an oval, fill in the middle. Make an oval, fill in the middle. I made these pointy, so I have to go back and put some points on the rest of these flowers, petals. Now, what would be a good color to go with an orange flower? I'm going to go complementary, I think, if my blue works, and go with a blue center. Complementary colors make each other look good. Blue and orange are across from each other on the color wheel. That means they're what's called complementary colors. So I'm going to show you on this one using a Q-tip to wet the area where you're going to put the flower. And since this isn't the whole thing, we don't have to wet the whole paper. We just need to wet where we think the image is going to be. And my Q-tip got soggy. So I'm going to switch and get another one. Don't leave your Q-tip in the water. Tip of the day. I want to make sure that I have enough area. I don't want my flower to be cut off at the edges. Let's see. I'm going to lay it on top without the color on there to see if it's big enough. Yep, looks good. Now I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to lay it down on the wet spot. And it's going to be a very fuzzy flower. And when this dries, it'll look a lot better than it looks right now. Looks like a big blob right now. That's okay. It's kind of cool. It actually looks more like a geode or something. I don't know. You could do some planets like that, and that would look really cool. Maybe some Star Wars themed artwork this week would be really cool. If you did this within a circle and you did some really cool colors that swirled together, it would look like a planet. You could cut that out, glue it on another piece of paper, draw some stars. Bam, you have the whole universe. Just kidding. It's just one planet, not the whole universe. But there's my printmaking lesson for you today. I hope you enjoyed it, and happy creating.